All right, let's go. Let's do this. Welcome to the Rose Bush. My name is Rose, and today I'm watching another LADbible video with their segment of Minutes With. And this time it's people that say that they should be dead. So let's go ahead and get into their stories. Oh, and if you're new here, this is a channel where growth happens one word at a time. I don't know if I said that already. If I did, sorry. I said it again. Please hit that subscribe button, notification bell so you're notified whenever I upload, because you don't want to miss it, okay? I'm telling you.
Asked me, did you see the light at the end of the tunnel? I was like, no, I didn't. There was no tunnel. And people say, oh, did you see any loved ones? And I was like, no, just Snoop Dogg, really.
And I thought immediately, Christ, this is no drill. This is for real. This is an emergency. And I've got to get this aircraft down.
And then I felt this massive blow to the top of my head, and I just saw the ground coming up towards me.
Cold red, multiple stab wounds.
It was one of those bluebird days. You know, the sun was shining down on me. You know, birds in the trees kind of twittering. And I was just thinking about what was coming ahead. As far as I was concerned, it was just another day solo, and I was kind of hour building up my experience, and then I would have been coming back to the UK, sort of job done, sort of tick in the box, and that ambition complete, as it were. Nice and calm, nice and gentle, hand on the stick, and then I go full throttle, and I'm starting to take off, and I'm starting to head higher, and then once I get to 1,000 feet, I can pull back gently on the throttle and sort of level off. So the aircraft sort of goes from climbing to sort of leveling off, 1,000 feet, and then I can kind of gently kind of cruise round in the pattern and do what I need to do. I then did a look, and I did a look again, because I couldn't quite believe what I saw. I was struck by an immediate vision, if you will, of a thin streak of visible yellow-orange flame. And I had to look again because it was a shock initially, and I realised that it was fire, and it was a thin streak, and it was emanating from the front portion of the fuselage.
Jesus.
And I looked down at my feet on the rudder pedals. I could see flame starting to lap and around the feet and the ankles inside the chamber of the small two-seater cockpit that I'm sat in. And I thought immediately, Christ, this is no drill. This is for real. This is an emergency. And I've got to get this aircraft down. I immediately felt the heart sort of boom, boom, boom within my chest. You know, there I was at 1,000 feet, nowhere to go. Where am I going to go? You can't jump from that height. People have asked me, did you not have a parachute? Well, you don't wear a parachute in a light aircraft. The only option I foresaw was indeed to try to get out of that cockpit early, but I needed to get the aircraft that was to a safe level in order to have any chance of pulling that off cleanly and make it happen. My mind then flicked back to one of the US instructors, and I can distinctly remember it, and he said, and I quote, "Above all, if there's an emergency and you've got a problem, fly the damn aircraft." And these words kind of echoed and reverberated.
Wow. I want to hear that again. I want to hear his accent change. We're going to rewind it.
And he said, and I quote, "Above all, if there's an emergency and you've got a problem, fly the damn aircraft." And these words kind of echoed and reverberated in my memory, and I thought, I've got to hold on. I've got to get a grip here, and I've got to do exactly that. So I kept my left hand on the flight control stick and my right hand on the throttle, and I carefully just knocked off that power on the throttle to try to reduce airspeed. And I needed to reduce that significantly in order to get myself to a relatively safe speed, approaching the active runway. All the time I'm watching the altimeter spin down, so through 900 feet, 800 feet, 700 feet, 600 feet, and I've got that left hand on control, right hand on the throttle, and I'm trying to breathe and I'm trying to think through it, and I'm just trying to really calm it all down as much as possible. When I flew over the top of the active runway, I was literally 100 feet, 50 feet by the time I'd cleared it. I turn off the key, magnetos, alpha, bravo, the red switch is off. In the center column, fuel pump off. Rotate fuel selector valve through 90 degrees off. Everything off, off, off in sequence. At the lower reaches, at 50 feet and below, the fire was literally lapping my face. I then opened my left-hand canopy door.
Wait, did I miss something, or is he saying that he's on fire this whole time? That he's burning? He's on fire? Like the fire has hit him the whole time he's landing this craft? Oh man, that just is. I feel like I need to lower this some more. I feel like I'm yelling and blasting y'all away. Sorry.
I can remember reaching across, fiddling with the handle. I then had to elbow it with my left elbow and punch it and strike it with the heel of my hand. And I'm now 50 feet, 40 feet, 30 feet, 20 feet, all the time looking, checking, looking. And at 20 feet, I got onto the left-hand wing, clambering over that door lip, and then I stood onto the wing, and so I jumped, I would estimate at a height of about 15 feet. In reality, I was probably traversing at about perhaps 30 knots through the airspace, and that height 15 feet. So it was a tremendously hard impact. Even though I landed feet first, I then thrust forward. I smashed my face on the sharp Florida razor grass below, and I remember my right shoulder was still on fire, so I aggressively had to pat it out. And my right scalp, I could sense it was still on fire, so I patted it out. The aircraft carried on a very low and shallow trajectory without me, and I watched her crash land. There was this ugly, crumpling, crashing noise, and extremely loud and very scary. And all of a sudden, boom, an almighty explosion. I felt the shock of the explosion, the energy come through me and back again, and that sucked out all of the air that I had within the lung. And I held on, and I don't know how I did it. All I can suggest.
I'm just so blown away. I'm blown away. And then he said the Florida grads, and I'm like, of course it would happen here.
Suggest is that I was a young man at the time. I was just turned 32 years of age, and I was as fit as a butcher's dog by virtue of what I did for a living, with the forces, and I kept myself in great shape. And so I guess I had that fighting edge, but I still didn't have long. And I waited, and then I heard the sirens. So it was like, woo, 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 woo. And then the truth is, I don't remember anything for realistically the next 6 months of my life.
Wow. Incredible. I mean, he probably was in a medically induced coma.
I got a phone call from my girlfriend, and she's like, I could just hear a lot of commotion in the background. She basically said she got into an altercation and a guy hit her. So I went back to find my girlfriend. So I got back there, and the person that hit her was just standing there like he'd done nothing wrong. So I've confronted him, and I said, bruv, like, why are you hitting my girlfriend for? And then basically, me and him got into an altercation. We had a fight, just a physical fight. It happened in the shop. And then I remember coming out of the shop. I went to the car to get back into the car, and something just said, look behind you. I looked behind me, and I just saw this guy with the longest kitchen knife. I just remember it like a big silver kitchen knife. I remember him chasing me, so I started to run around the car trying to get away from him. So every time I got to one side of the car, he was kind of like on the next side of the car with the knife. And I was like, damn. And then he opened the car door, and at that time, he opened the car door to where my missus was sitting. So I'm like, damn. Now he's going towards her with a knife. At that time, so I've jumped back over towards the car to start fighting him again to defend her. And I remember he had a knife in his right hand. So I said to myself, when I turn around, I'm gonna try to deflect the knife by doing that. As I've done that, he took a step back and just went bang in my neck. It felt like a circuit broke. I had a big flash of white, it went bing, and I just heard my ears ringing like, I didn't know what was going on. And after that, as soon as he'd done that, my arm just dropped to the side, boom. And then he's come at me and he started stabbing me again. And then he stabbed me and I fell on the floor. This is when he stabbed me across my chest here. After he stabbed me twice, so the first stab I got was in my neck, then the second stab in my neck, and then I got stabbed in I got a big scar across here, he stabbed me there. I believe because I got stabbed the first time and I had something to kind of compare it against, I knew that I was already in much more trouble than the first time, if you know what I mean. The blood, the pain, not being able to move my arm. And after that, I went straight from thinking I've been defeated to, I can hear police sirens. Yeah, so the policewoman stops me and she's like, what's going on? We heard there's a fight. I was like, no, I don't know fight. I'm cool. She's like, no, listen, we heard there's a fight.
You've been stabbed multiple times. You're not cool. You're not cool, bro. Does it make you cool? People. I mean, you got stabbed.
I heard there's a fight here. You're involved, cream jacket. And after she looked at me and she went, cold red, multiple stab wounds, like my top was just turning red by the second, but I got a cream thing on now. I remember my neck's cut, my belly's cut. I'm like everywhere's the blood's just coming through me now. She's like, cold red. She put me on the floor. She's like, get an ambulance. And next thing I remember, where they put me in that ambulance, the first thing I kept saying to the doctor, I can't move my arm. Why I can't move my arm? They didn't care about that because at that time I'd already lost 40% of my blood. So they were just trying to stop me from losing blood now. The last thing I remember hearing was my mum scream. And I remember like trying to like put myself to have a strong face, like there's nothing wrong with me. But do you know what I mean? My mum in it. And then after that, I just remember waking up 2 days later in a hospital.
Myself and my sister was attending a friend's wedding. In the evening, driving back, I was a passenger in the car and we had a car accident. Obviously, I don't remember anything about the accident, but initially after the accident, I was fighting for my life. My heart had stopped on a couple of occasions and I was put into an induced coma. My body was fighting with a severity of injuries as well as a spinal cord injury, and I was touch and go for quite some time. I know at the scene of the accident I had to be resuscitated by the emergency services, and also when I got to A&E I had to be resuscitated again.
Do you remember being rushed to A&E in the ambulance?
No. It's so bizarre though, because what I do remember is like, I'm not sure whether it's me being conscious, unconscious, or where my mind has, I don't know, it's where my heart stopped, my brain has gone off in a different way, because what I remember is not actually what happened. So at that point, I thought after the accident, we drove home and went back to my parents' house and my mum and dad was there. But obviously this didn't happen, so that was in my mind. And then it flashed to a different part where I was at an aeroplane and I was being put into the cargo with the luggage, and I just remember it being so bright and really, really cold. And then my brother and my fiancé Andy was on the plane and we was all going back to Australia and everyone was really happy. But then it changed and I was then in this complete darkness, in this huge open space, and I was sitting on a chair, like stuck to a wall, and it was just empty and silent. And then I hear the door go behind me, and it was my brother and Andy, and they're so angry, and I can hear them talking, and they're saying, oh, I can't believe she didn't come through. That's it, we're done. We wipe our hands with her. You know, my brother said to Andy, you need to forget about her now. You need to wipe your hands, that's it, we're done with her. We're just gonna leave.
Wow. I mean, this is like, the brain is so interesting. Like, she's recounting her experience, but she doesn't quite, like, so far I understand it as, like, this is what she remembers, but it's almost like a dream state. It's almost like what was going on inside her mind when she was dead. You know, all those times where she, you know, was being dangled between the balance. And it's like her brain's way of processing those moments of no life, and then life, and then no life, then life again. And this is so interesting. This is great.
Gonna leave her, just leave her. But I remember just sitting in the chair, and then I heard these voices, and I looked down, and I could see a light from a door, like a back entrance to a club, and I have no idea why this person was there. I just can't work it out, but it was Snoop Dogg, and he had his entourage of people with him, and they was looking to kill me. But I remember the fear, and I was so scared. I tried not to make a sound. I didn't want to breathe, and I was thinking, oh, please don't look up, please don't look up. And then my chair slowly started peeling away from the wall, like it was stuck with Velcro, and it was peeling more and more, and I was thinking, oh my God, please move. I don't want my chair to fall and then be there and find me. As it came away from the wall, then I woke up. Because a lot of people have asked me, did you see the light at the end of the tunnel? I was like, no, I didn't. There was no tunnel, and people say, oh, did you see any loved ones? And I was like, no, just Snoop Dogg, really. I don't know how long after the dreams or however I would explain it. But when I actually woke up, I was distraught because I thought that my family and Andy had left me. It was so weird and bizarre. I thought that I was in a psychiatric ward. Obviously I was still on traction, so I was lying flat on my back, and I could see, when I opened my eyes, I could see the tubes coming from my throat, and I wasn't quite sure what was going on. And I was feeling really sad and just low at that point, because I thought that my family and Andy had left me, and
That's so, it's devastating. It's, like I said, the brain is so interesting. Here her brain is just like trying to fill in these gaps, and it's like she's having this dream state, and it's really her worst fears, right? Manifesting themselves in that way. And I like what she said there about she had tubes in her throat, because I was actually staring at her neck quite a bit, and it looked like she had at one point like a tracheotomy at one point. So interesting.
I was on my own, and I didn't quite understand what was going on. And then my mum and dad walked around the corner. Oh, and I can't tell you how happy and the relief that I felt when I saw them, because obviously I thought that they'd left me. And when my mum came walking up to the bed, I just burst out crying.
Leeds was a really vibrant town, full of music venues, arty people, and went to meet my friends to plan my 21st birthday party, which was up and coming in a few days' time. There was an atmosphere in Leeds at the time whereby you didn't want to stay out late, and women were encouraged not to go out alone. Well, I wasn't having any of that as a 20-year-old. I just thought that was ridiculous. And I felt very safe and streetwise. So my friends decided that we should leave the pub early. We'd run out of money, to be fair. We'd only had enough money for a few beers. And then I separated from them to walk into the town centre to catch my bus home. So I went on my own through the Leeds University campus. There was a few people about. It wasn't particularly busy. I think people had already gotten home. And then I thought, if I don't hurry, I'm going to miss my bus. So I took a shortcut, which was only a side street. It wasn't an alley or anywhere dark. And then I heard this voice behind me, just here. It was a really friendly voice. And he said, hi, how are you doing? I thought, I'm bound to know this person. They're probably en route into town like me, or they're, a fellow student. So I turned round and went and walked towards him. And as I got closer, I didn't recognise him at all. I noticed that he was holding himself really oddly, as though he had an arm round his side and he was leaning a little bit. But he really wanted to engage in conversation, that much I do remember. And I started to feel a little bit uncomfortable. And so I said, no, I'm sorry, yeah, bye, I've got to catch a bus. And I turned round and started to walk very quickly. Then I sensed real danger because I heard his footsteps following me, and I was heading for the end of the road. And as I walked faster, I could hear his footsteps getting faster and faster. And then sheer panic took over, and I started to run towards the end of the road. And as I ran, I could feel his steps getting nearer and nearer and nearer, so close behind me. I had the hairs on the back of my neck standing up, and my knees went to jelly. And then I felt this massive blow to the top of my head, and I just saw the ground coming up towards me, and I was made completely unconscious.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's got to be said. Apparently, unbeknownst to me, as I don't remember anything apart from the blow to my head and falling to the ground, I let out a scream. Fortunately, there was a young couple walking at the end of the road, right where I needed to get to, and then they saw me on the floor with this man kneeling over me, wielding something and trying to hit me repeatedly. And they ran towards him, and at that point he saw them and ran away. And if it wasn't for them, he would have had his final blow.
Yep.
And I wouldn't be sat here today, for sure.
The doctors in Orlando gave me about a 5% probability of survival, which is extremely slim odds.
Like I said, why's it gotta be Florida? Also Orlando.
Even though they placed me in drug-induced coma, I was in the fight of my life. I mean, this was Jamie Hull, World War III. I had 62 operations under general anaesthetic with a multitude of different surgeons.
Jesus.
For all kinds of different reconstructive work following the burns, and to get me back on track, to get me back to a semblance of health and normality. And indeed, I had many years of work, both physically and mentally, in order to accept and in order to rehabilitate myself. And it was very important for me to get back in the air somehow and to fulfill that ambition all over again, and to keep going. I did fortunately win a scholarship to learn to fly a hot air balloon, and I did my training in Italy. It gave me that real that sense of freedom. Admittedly, what I do with the balloon from time to time is a lot more sedate, but then I guess the new version of Jamie Hull is a lot more sedate. I'm not that high-speed guy that I once was, and so it's probably quite fitting, really.
It's so slow in the spinal world. Like, a small thing to others is a huge thing to me. I just don't want to settle. I just want to keep pushing myself. I want to keep bettering myself. I want to keep making smaller gains. But it's the little things in the meantime. I'm just going to keep on working harder and just making progress. So now I can manage to sit in a chair like this. And not only that, I can propel myself. I can push myself around. I can feed myself. I can brush my teeth. I can do my own makeup. There's so much stuff that I have done now because of physiotherapy and because of rehab. And I want to give that opportunity to others. I want other people to benefit from it as well. And I know they can.
It took the best part of 5 to 10 years. Nerves grow back a millimetre a day, and you got to assist that with diet, good diet and sleep and physiotherapy and goodwill. Do you know what I mean? It's not easy. A young, impulsive, naive child who's driven by social media and materialistic stuff gets a knife in his hand. He ain't gonna know that the severity of stabbing someone until he's sitting in jail knowing that he's got another 10 years to do, or he's urinating through some sort of medical device, or he's dead. If you carry a knife and you're not willing to have it in, just make sure you're willing to go to jail or you're willing to die. There's no more to it. Live by the knife, die by the knife. It's that simple.
It goes, I feel like that same applies for guns here in the U.S. Same thing applies. Because, they don't have firearms, so that's, knives and everything else they have to contend with.
Simple.
I think the most important thing that it did give me, that attack, that 5 minutes in the wrong place gave me the power to just go, wow, I nearly died. I was so close to death, and a horrific death it would have been as well, mutilated. It gave me power, actually. It doesn't define me, because I am other things than a victim of a crazy serial killer. I'm a professional. I'm a practicing artist. I'm a published author. Sutcliffe couldn't take that away from me. He might have broken my bones and tried to kill me, and did change me because it gave me a lust for life. It gave me wow, I survived that. Almost a responsibility to carry on, harder, and loud, to shout louder, to make big art, to do things. And I just wonder how I would have plodded on if I hadn't been attacked. Harness your anger, harness your fear, and turn it around if you can, and use it as fuel to get you where you want to be in your life. It's really vital that you don't let it subsume you and drown you and define you.
Yes. That last bit was really something, because that's something that I have to remind myself every day. I have a post-it on my mirror in my bathroom. It's to remind myself that, I am not my traumas. These things have happened to me. I've gone through these things that have impacted me in certain ways. But they don't define me. They're a part of me, but they are not all of me, because I'm so much more than that. And you are so much more than that. And it's so important that you understand that you're important. I don't know you, but you're important to me. You're taking the time to engage with me, and I'm so grateful for that. I thank you so much for spending your time with me on the Rosebush and watching things with me and engaging with me. And just know that, use it, like she said. Power through. Use things to your advantage. Take action and be proactive and hold yourself accountable. And so, with that, I'll see you on the next one. Take care.